Chris, thank you so much for joining me on the Tiny Sessions podcast today. It's really lovely to have you here today.
Hi.
Hi.
No problem. It's great.
Hey, no, it's lovely having you. It's really, really cool. Your space is really, really cool. So for anyone who hasn't heard of you, or just hasn't seen your space or anything like that yet, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah. So my background is primarily cars. I'm an engineer day to
Cool.
day, and my love of cars follows me outside of work as well.
Nice.
I got into backpacking a few years back, and from there I decided that I wanted to travel more, and it made sense to start traveling more in cars.
Yeah.
Cars are a bit small, which moved to micro campers, and then with the micro campers, I definitely knew this type of traveling was for me.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do it longer term, so I needed something bigger.
Yeah.
Most people would go with like a Sprinter van or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
I decided to go with an ex-military full-size truck,
Nice.
so I could build a full house on the back of the truck. And
That's so
that's
cool.
pretty much it in a quick nutshell there.
That's amazing. So you're an engineer, is that right?
Yeah.
Amazing. So you went backpacking, and what sort of places did you go backpacking in? Was it a certain area or did you go to a few places?
The backpacking is mainly around Southeast Asia and the typical Thailand, Vietnam,
Yeah.
things like that.
Oh, that's so
But I've
cool.
also did a lot of traveling around Europe, most of Central Europe. I've been around, been slowly pushing east over the years to go into
Yeah.
places.
That's really cool. Did you say that you traveled when you were backpacking? Did you like hire out a vehicle or did you take a vehicle over?
So with backpacking, obviously we hired motorbikes and things
Yeah.
like that. One big thing that I did what got me into sort of the whole traveling by car thing was when I was at uni, I had always wanted to do the Mongol Rally.
Oh
And
yeah.
when I was backpacking in Thailand, I met some guys from New Zealand, and we were all talking about things about what we'd like to do, where we'd like to go next. And I raised that I've always wanted to do the Mongol Rally.
Oh cool.
I had no idea what it was, and for anyone that doesn't hear, it's basically you buy a scrap car. It has to be 1 liters or less in capacity, so a very small car, and you drive it from. Well, at this point, I was driving it from the UK to Mongolia, which it didn't actually finish in Mongolia. It actually finishes in Russia. But it's a huge trip in a scrap car, essentially. The whole idea is to not prepare the car and go as unprepared as possible and see how far you can go. These guys from New Zealand hadn't heard of it, and they were absolutely taken aback by it. But anyways, we travelled around. It was Pai in the north of Thailand, and we travelled around for a couple of days, went our separate ways, and literally I'd been back in the UK maybe a day or two, and I got a message from one of the guys, and they said they've booked up to do the Mongol Rally, and do I want to go?
That is like, so yeah, cool.
No problem. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And pretty much a year to the day I last seen them, in my house, a group of people all gate crashing mine. I'd went and bought them a car to take on the trip, and basically they came, used my workshop. We did a little bit of preparation, put a roof rack on it, give the car a bit of a service, and then they were off. Unfortunately, I couldn't do the full trip with them.
Oh no.
Work commitments, because it would have been about 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So I decided to fly out to Croatia when they were part through, so they went and seen a lot of Europe, a lot of what I'd already done anyhow. And I went basically through Croatia, Bosnia, Montenegro, Kosovo, Macedonia, basically all the not so typical route going down that sort of way, into Bulgaria and then into Turkey. It was a great experience. There was five of us in a Nissan Micra. So
it's a Nissan Micra. Oh,
yeah, I can show you some pictures. It was an
I'd
early
love
Micra
that.
as well, 1991. So it was a very old car.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, affectionately known Mollet, based off the number plate. Yeah, so it was great fun with them guys. It's amazing these type of things you pick up with people who you travel
Yeah.
with. I never expected that I'd you meet these people in
No.
backpacking. I knew them all of you'd be lucky if I knew them all of 24 hours, and the next thing I know, a year
Yeah.
later, they're in my house and I'm traveling around the world with them.
I love that. I think that is one of the most amazing things about traveling. And like, if you're the sort of person where you just go, I like this, and if it happens that you say it to the right people and they turn around and they just go, yeah, I want to do that, it clicks. I find it really exciting. And it's like did you say that's one of the main things that sort of ignited that like passion for traveling in that kind of way, in a vehicle that's just a slightly bit different, like a vehicle that you've got to do a lot of like body work to as well, haven't you?
Yeah, it's exactly that. I had the similar interest, and we both wanted to do just something different, and it opens you up when you start driving places as well. Like it's great fun to like going to loads of tourist destinations. I fly everywhere. I go to different places, but it's something about moving away from the main tourist points and just driving around the countryside through the towns and just seeing a bit more of a stripped back layer. Not as commercial, as just really cool, and you find some really nice places and stop in some really strange places as well.
Yeah, that's it. I think it's really interesting. It's almost like seeing the area as a local, and like you say, not seeing that touristy side. You see like the real country and the real place. I think it's such a cool way to see it. And I think, do you think that if you're sort of driving around like that, that's how you see the real country? Whereas like if you do just go off from the plane and then go to your hotel, your B&B, or your accommodation, you sort of just you stay in a certain area, don't you, unless you've hired out a car or you've got like a vehicle to go around in. You don't see everything like that you're saying, and I think there's something special about seeing those other things.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously I left the group when we were on Turkey, but they continued through Turkey and they went into Iran.
Oh, wow.
And it was great because they were driving through Iran, and literally there was a family who was chasing them down the road in the car, passing them fruit and everything. And they got talking, and the family invited them to the house. They stopped in. This family was just like so overwhelmed to have them there. That the hospitality was unbelievable.
Ah, so
Or like
nice.
they brought them around for dinner. They stopped the night. They wanted them to stop longer, but obviously they had to carry on driving because you're on a rally. You are timed to get from point A to point B in a roundabout way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you can choose which way you want to go with it, and yeah, you just see so your opinion and everything just changes so much. So I was really gutted that I couldn't experience further past Turkey with them, but
Oh,
work commitments and visas and things
I
at the time weren't
know. Maybe you guys need to sort of have a little get together and do it again one day, or do another. Maybe
definitely.
there's another rally out there which might take your fancy, and you can do that one as well.
Yeah, I've been one of the ones that I keep talking about is what's its name? It's basically you buy a tuk-tuk in India and you go from the
Oh
north to south in
yeah,
India, or the south
I've
to north in
seen
India.
that.
Yeah,
Maybe
we quite like the idea of doing that.
I love that.
Uh,
Oh, you need to do that. Do it. Definitely. Tell all the other guys. Nicole says do it. I love that. So are you about 4 months into your build that you're doing now? Is it about 4 months in?
yeah, I'm about 4 months in. I've owned the truck a bit longer. Um, I've owned the truck for about a year and a half now,
Okay.
but it was a very random purchase. It came from the back of touring in my micro camper over Christmas. Christmas 20. It would have been Christmas 2018. Yes.
Oh, okay.
And it was Christmas 2018. I was just outside of Monaco, and there was a rally starting in Monaco for they were driving around and getting a ferry across to Africa and starting to do a desert rally.
Oh, wow.
And the support vehicles were obviously the big full-size expedition trucks to go along with the desert raid rally cars. And I was just parked with my little van beside it, dwarfed. And I was just like, oh my God, like that's amazing. But they're serious when you're talking, £500,000.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be, well, it's an expensive price tag, but that's sort of the area they go, because it's a brand new tractor wagon itself, which is expensive. And then the fit and finish is just next level.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, I'd love something like that. Anyhow, a few months passed by, and I was on my break at work, lunch, and I was on eBay, and it came up as a notification, ending soon, something you might like, the
yeah.
And it was the truck that I've got now, and it was doing £1,500, and I was just like, oh my God, that's just so cheap.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I put 2,500 in, and before I knew it, I think it was 2,300 I ended up buying it for.
And you got it.
Complete impulse buy 6 minutes ago, and I was just like, I can't drive this. How am I going to transport? Like, transporting this isn't going to be cheap, because you need a bigger wagon.
Was it from? Was it in England or was it abroad?
Yes, it was in England.
Oh, okay.
So it's military. It was in Burton.
Okay.
Upon Trent.
So
it was about an hour from me.
Yeah.
So I went up, had a look around, paid the guy, and then said, I need to go and figure out a way to get it towed back to my unit now. Obviously, I've got a big garage, but it was full of cars at the time, and I was like, I need space, so I had to park it outside. And basically, it took me a year to clear everything out, get it into its space. But also in the meantime, I needed to do a bit of planning, like where do I start, like what bits do I need, measurements, and I really planned it out. It's quite a small community. There was only 2,500 of these trucks made, I believe. I think that's the number.
Really? So really small community.
Yeah, so it's quite a small community of the trucks.
Yeah.
But everyone is pretty much doing what I'm doing to them as well, because they're sort of the cheapest base for a full-size expedition truck. And the next sort of thing from this is your sort of Unimogs and other big mans, but they've got a higher price tag.
Yeah.
They are more capable, but I'm not going to be as extreme as some of the guys with the full. I like to get off the beaten track and some rough roads and to get around it. And there's some guys that have actually did this. A good channel to watch is Just Escape. They've been all the places I want to go: Siberia, Mongolia, all of that area, and they got through it. Some really interesting videos, actually.
That's cool.
So my plan is to go round the world eastward. So go as far east as I can, get to Russia, then maybe, hopefully, not fully planned. It's almost just in the idea.
Definitely.
So from Russia to Korea to Japan would be great if I could do Japan. If not, it'd be from Korea or Russia across to the States.
Yeah.
Go down through Alaska, through Canada, and then across America, and then ferry back to the UK. Just doing time and visa stuff. I would like to do the Pan America as well.
I was going to say,
doing the full circumference first, I think that's what I want to do. I think that's where my mind is with that.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, but yeah, the truck was sort of the impulse buy. Had it about a year, and then started mid-January. I started saying, right, let's do something now. I wasn't really. I build a lot of cars, as I said before, and all my friends keep saying, Chris, you need to do a video on it. You need to like show people, because everyone seems to be interested in what I'm doing. And I was just like,
definitely.
I thought, you know what, it's different. I've seen a lot of these videos of some great builds, but a lot of them are. I try and do everything myself.
Yeah.
There's not a lot that I won't do myself. Or at least I'll try it first and then say, you know what, that definitely is a job for someone else. But there's not many things that's been that way. If I think it through, I can do it. I've got most of the equipment to do it. And I just thought, I'll do a full ground up build, but a true self build of an expedition rig. All the torsion-free subframes, the full back boxes, all of the solar, the water setup and everything, and do it all truly self-built, because you can open checkbook build some of these. It's just like, most people, if you're using a company to do it, I think the cheapest one I've seen sort of around about 45-50K for someone to build you a box, do all of the work inside of it and paint it and get it road legal. It's still a lot of truck for the money, considering the price of a new sprinter van. But that's sort of the bottom. You can buy some cheaper in the 30K mark, but they tend to be not as sophisticated build, so to speak. But they're perfectly functional. Like you could quite rock and use them. But I've decided that I want this to be almost fit and finish of a home, as good as home, effectively.
Amazing. So like a proper little apartment on wheels, but
exactly that,
but done on a truck that's totally different to other chassis and things. So if you've got, I'm just trying to picture, people, we'll make sure people have a look at your pictures after this, but with your truck at the moment, you've got like what I would call like the front cab, and then you've got the back. But at this stage, you don't have the sort of what I would call like the back body on at the moment, do you? Because you're only 4 months into it. So have you had to do a lot of work on the sort of undercarriage of it or anything? Has there been a lot of extra work that you didn't know about, or has it been okay? Has it just been touching up things?
There's not been more work than I was expecting. Obviously, it's I actually don't know the exact date of the truck because it's still on the Army number plates. When I register it on the road, I'll get the full date. I think it's around about a 93 and 94 model.
Okay.
So it had a fair bit of rust of sitting outside. So I've did a lot of the rust repairs on it, got the cab solid again. And what I've started doing now is I've just removed the original back. So originally it had a big canvas back.
I see.
Section.
Yeah.
So I've removed all of that. That's what my next video is going to be, is me removing the full back section.
Yeah.
And then you're left with the chassis rails of the truck.
Yeah.
I'm going to fully restore all of that. All brand new brake lines.
Oh wow.
Redo all of it. I basically wanted like a brand new truck on the underside. I want to travel in this, so I want it to be. It's an old truck. It's got a mix of Imperial and metric fittings, things like that. So I want to standardize it all, make it a lot easier to source bits when I'm out in the field. Not relying on calling someone in the UK and trying to ship something out to a strange country. So that's the whole plan, is to get it as good as new on the underside, and then I'll start moving up onto the box.
Wow.
I've designed all the box and CAD ready. I've got my materials list, and
cool.
I've sort of I've planned out the build over the next year effectively.
Okay.
So that I know where my big spends are. And
that's really good.
I'm doing all of the low costs. So the welding and fabrication is just materials cost to me at the moment. Doing the chassis again is the actual parts and components are cheap. It's just time consuming. But doing all of that while saving for the box on the back, because that'll be the big spend effectively to
the
buy
most
all
expensive
the material. But once I've bought all the material, I can continue on, and then once the box is all built and weather tight and all of the undersides, and I'll probably paint it at that point.
Okay.
And then once the painting and everything's done and it's all looking like a truck again, I'll probably get it road registered at that point.
Yep.
And then I'll start fitting out the inside. The inside, I'm still working out exactly how I want to do it. My mind changes all the time based on different. I've got a blank space. That's quite
it's hard, isn't it?
A large size. I've got. I'd have to do the maths quickly, but it's something. I've got about, I think, 13, 14 square meters of space.
Oh wow!
So if you in my videos, you can probably see there's a transit van, long wheelbase, high top,
and you can see the difference.
And I could physically park that transit van on the back of my truck.
That's
not
amazing.
a problem. So if you think that you only get to use 3/4 of something like that
Yeah.
in terms of a van, and you're limited with width as well with a van.
Yeah.
I'm 2.5 meters wide, so I'm probably about a good half a meter wider than most vans.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of space that way. It's all vertical, the sides and everything, so you've not got the arching in a van.
Yeah, so that makes it a lot easier, because a lot of people find that really, really hard in terms of like building any sort of structure inside. So that's going to be amazing that you've just got really nice straight lines, which I know will be heaven to some people. That's really cool. There was something that you said about, which was to do with that you had to sort out the rust, which is really interesting, because was it easy to sort out the rust? Was there anything particular that you used? Because I'm just thinking there's some people who want to start doing up a space, but they might not have the knowledge. I mean, we're lucky that we have YouTube videos accessible now, and now we know that we've got yours as well for seeing things. But is there something that particular that you use for doing the rust?
I cut it completely out. With rust, what you see generally on most vehicles is only it's a bit like the iceberg analogy. You see the tip of it.
It's like the
What
surface.
you find is most cars and vehicles rust from the inside out.
I see.
When you're actually getting to the bubbles on the outside of the paint, if you actually stop and think, there tend to be bubbles, but they tend to be paint covered, so there's no rust. You can see the bubbling.
Yeah.
So if it was rust from the outside going in, there would be no paint left.
I see.
So it's rusted from the back of the panel. So when you just sand off the rust bubble and just put some rust protector on there and paint it, and say, oh, the rust's back in a few weeks, it's because the rust is behind the panel.
Oh, I see.
And it's usually quite a large area. There's very, very few cases where you can just sand off rust, treat it and paint it, and it's never there.
Yeah.
Stone chips are about the only one.
Oh, okay.
Surface rust, if you've ground a piece of metal back and it's got some flash rust on, that'll sand off and you just paint it. And then just got a message up. And then the other option is like stone chips, where again it's broke through the paint and you've just got a little rust ring, sand that off, paint it, treat it. But generally, rust on wheel arches and doors, it generally needs cut out.
Okay.
And people, it's a big thing I've actually talked about in some of my videos. Is the main thing with people is, if you see rust, it's really get a good second opinion on it if you're not confident, because rust, I would rather buy a car. I don't mind repairing rust. I've built classic cars. I'm used to cutting cars right up from nothing and building it back up from nothing. But if I was someone who wasn't it's not so much mechanically minded, but someone who didn't want to spend a great deal, you'll find it with rust, it's so time consuming that it becomes so expensive.
Yeah.
If you need to repair a wheel arch correctly, there's around about a day's work in that, to cut it out, to fit the new panel in, weld it in and dress it. There's at least 8 hours. And even at a cheap rate of say £50 an hour, already at £400 plus panel plus consumables. Yeah. So generally, things that are more mechanical tend to be cheaper. So say it's got bad brakes. I'm not saying buy something with bad brakes.
Yeah.
Brakes might only be £200 to fix if the body's good.
Yeah, so definitely. So it's always better. Yes, that's it. Having a good, if you get a good body, that it's better. Like you say, it's better to go for that than don't worry about if it's the other items, because you can sort those out more easily. That makes sense.
And you don't tend to, it's never nice having to pay for something, but in the scheme of things, again, extremes, nobody likes spending money on bodywork because it's so expensive and it's just a bit of bodywork and it doesn't make you feel necessarily great. But say you had a bad engine and you put in a new lower mileage engine and all the rest of it, and yes, it was expensive, but you've then got, oh my god, I've got pretty much a brand new engine in my van and I can go forever now. It's weighing it up. So definitely rust is a killer. I, for some reason, buy rusty things all the time, but I can do it. It doesn't cost me anything but my time. So I do dabble in the odd bargain with rust.
Yeah.
And I think my truck, actually, again, small community, I think my truck is probably one of the worst ones I've seen for rust.
Is it?
And on the page, yeah, I think it's got quite an interesting history, if I'm honest.
Oh, really?
So inside there, you've got, I found underneath the seats one of the old draft certificates of saying do not use this truck. So basically when it was put out of commission,
Yeah.
and it was part of the 2 Royal Gurkha rifles.
Oh,
And when I've looked
wow.
that up, they were based in Brunei.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if it's been originally based in Brunei and sent across, and it might explain why it's a bit more rusty because of all
that would
the
explain
tropical rain.
it. Yeah, the humidity. That's amazing. Oh, that is great, because I didn't even think of that, because of course they're military trucks, so they would have so much history and varied history depending on which truck it is. That's really, really cool. I love that. Maybe you'll be able to find even like some more things about that. That's really cool. So before you were saying about that you want to, the sort of structure that you want on the back, you want it to be like a mini house. So are you thinking of going part-time or full-time, or have you got ideas of what you want to do with that?
So I think the dream would be full-time. The dream definitely is full-time. How I make that work, do I commit with work and say, you know what, no more work?
Yeah.
Do I work on the road to a degree? I think that works as long as you're within a decent time zone. I don't think it works when you start getting past Europe.
Yeah.
Maybe 3-4 hours time difference you can probably get away with.
Yeah.
But I think after that it'll be a struggle. Obviously sabbatical is always an option. Do I just take a sabbatical for a year?
Yeah. Take a year out and see what it's like almost.
Yeah. Or, do I just do it all, get rid of it altogether and just say, you know what? I'm just going to live off my savings for as long as I can. The living in a truck, certainly a self-sufficient truck. Once you get out of Europe, diesel is the main expense when traveling.
Yeah.
When it gets outside of Turkey, diesel becomes ridiculously cheap.
Yeah, of course.
I seem to recall like less than 60 pence a litre in some places. So you think,
really?
If you give yourself even if you give yourself something quite extreme, but say it was £1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Food isn't going to cost me. Food today costs me £200 a month in the UK. So I'd have £800 a month for travel and adventure, and it's obviously still a big sum of money. But if you had say 15,000 one side, that's a long time, and that's assuming that you spend that money each month, so you can probably go quite a while and not an unachievable amount of money for someone.
Definitely.
The truck is the expense, the truck and getting it to that level, but also when you build it yourself, the truck is always going to be worth what I have in it. I don't think with me doing the work, I think I'll break even pretty easy with.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, because you're lucky, aren't you? Because you are doing the work, so you haven't got to pay those labor costs, which is amazing. If you can do it that way, that's a huge saving in cost, isn't it?
Yeah. So the expensive bit will be the actual, depending on how I go about it, will be the box fabrication itself with composite panels.
Yeah.
Lightweight. They're not cheap. And then the next would be the electrical side of things. So I do want what I class as a freeway redundant sort of system. So you'd have your solar, you'd have the inverter set up from the engine, so you can run the engine, charge your power. You have the solar, and then you also have a generator. So if one system's down, you've always got two.
You've got backups. Yeah.
So that's quite an expensive system. You're looking at a few thousand there, and then the heating, with the water system and so on. I want to be able to draw water from any source, filter it. I want to do. It's not something I've seen actually done, and I don't understand why. But a lot of people, the problem with the big roofs is you get standing water on the roof if it rains.
Yeah.
So people say, have a bit of an incline, make sure it gutters off. So I was going to do rainwater collection. I'll have a
Yes.
slide, and then I can do some rainwater collection on the roof and run it through a coarse filter from the roof and then into a smaller tank. And then if the tank is full, I can just have it so it just flows out normally when it rains. It's
that's amazing.
Rainwater effectively.
Yeah. No, but that's great. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, there's not a lot of people that do that. I know that I saw one once where it was almost like a giant tube that was on the side of a caddy and then like a holder at the end so that you could pull it and then have a shower. I've seen that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's almost like it makes sense to utilize the rainwater that way. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. It's not. I'm not going to have enough to like survive off it. It's not going to be like
no, but it's
in the desert where people have rainwater collection and they've got surface area and big rain runoffs. But it's just using something for free, which is no real extra effort for me.
Yeah.
If I put a slight slope on the roof, it removes the standing water issue on my roof.
Yeah.
People complain about and say the main cause of the leaks are.
Yeah.
It runs through a coarse filter into a small tank, and I might get 50 liters or 100 liters, whatever the size of the tank is.
Yeah.
But it may even be for drinking water. It could just be for just
use it for
water
anything.
not to waste. I don't like the term waste water, but
no.
Effectively it could be something for washing things outside, like
yeah.
taking mud off boots or something after a hike, or just
something
I wouldn't necessarily want to drink, wouldn't really want to wash clothes with, but to take dirt off something, ideal secondary use type of thing.
That's perfect.
So I've been just thinking of just little ways like that. So you have the water, be able to pull it from any source, then all the rest. But then water heating, again, heat it from the engine. Have a heating setup that heats off the engine.
Is that like a diesel heater or?
So just the engine running. So as the engine runs, you go into the engine cooling system. You have a Chris, I forgot. My mind's went blank. Basically, you have I can't believe it. I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head, but
that's okay.
Basically, it's a stack of plates. The hot water goes into the metal plates. The heat transfers into this system in the living side. So you're not actually putting engine cooling through your system. You're just using the plate to transfer the heat.
Yeah.
So that's obviously making some use of air. It's helping your engine cooling because it's taking some of the energy out of the cooling system. But also keeping your hot water warm in the back, so you don't have to run your actual heaters. So there'll be an electric heater, there'll be a diesel heater, which is a standalone separate system. And I'm going to put in a wood burning stove as well. And
what I was going to ask. I was wondering.
Put a heat coil around the chimney stack. Again, it's just tapping into things. So I've always got multiple redundancies. One of the great things about a wood burning stove is it's not the best thing to burn wood and all the rest of it for your health, but it's something that you can pretty much start anywhere in the world.
Definitely.
Stuff will burn. So if you're in a particularly cold place and you can't really cold, where if you turn your engines off, you mightn't get them to start again. The diesel can be a bit of a problem, but you can pretty much guarantee you'll be able to burn something and at least keep warm that way. So it's all about just going high tech one end, really primitive the other end, and having the ability to do it. And there's just something cozy about having a wood burning stove.
You can't beat that. Like, I love the crackling sound of a wood burning stove. I think it's really, like you say, it's really cozy and really relaxing. So if you're thinking of doing traveling, whether it's full-time or part-time, have you ever had any worries about border problems? Someone had mentioned to me this really interesting thing that I didn't know. Sometimes with military vehicles, there can be border problems that happen overseas. I don't know if this is still a thing, or is it something that worries you, or is it easy to get around?
I don't know the full intricacy of it. People travel in them and seem to get around fine.
That's cool.
It was very much a lot of people keep them in the army camo, so the NATO green or the desert sand, mainly for cost. But that's not something I would do. I don't like the idea of it. I don't think it can look quite imposing. You
Yeah.
know, if you're in a really straight, if you're in the middle of nowhere and all of a sudden you see this something you associate with the military, just
Yeah, that's it.
it's a bit imposing for people. It might make yours approachable. So I'm very much a fan of making mine. I think I know the color I'm going, but it'll be definitely it would look no different to a normal big lorry. Basically,
Yeah, that
I
makes
want it
sense.
to look almost a commercial. Like it's going to be
Yeah.
a nice brighter color.
Yeah.
You're not going to confuse it with someone who
Yeah, who might come
with
out
someone
with their
invading.
uniform and yeah, I love that. That's really cool because that leads on to one of our Instagram community guys who put in a question for you. They're called Robertolus.adventure, and they actually asked initially, they asked and we're wondering if you will keep the military look. So you were just saying then that you don't want to keep that, and I think you've got really valid reasons of not keeping that. Did you say that you have an idea of what color that you're thinking of? Have you got a few ideas of what color you might go for?
So yeah, I was going to do well, I do really like a bluey grey color. So my last micro camper I did in a grey color. I really do like grey, and I thought I can't do two in grey. And then I thought, well, a lot of people do them in flat colors,
Yeah.
like high glossy colors. I thought, I'll be a bit different. I want to do it metallic, but I still want it having a bit of a period look.
Yeah.
So it's funny because I'm saying non-military, but one of the colors I really like is it's an old Land Rover color called RAF blue gray. So it's on old Defenders, and it's like a gray blue.
Oh, that sounds nice.
It's quite a nice color. But then I thought I really want a metallic. And then if you look at the current lineup of Land Rover vehicles, it's a Range Rover color. I think it's on most Land Rover products now. It's called Byron blue.
Okay.
And it's pretty much a metallic version of the RAF blue gray, and I love it. It's on a lot of cars, but I think it's
nice,
big enough to not look. I think it's still got a nice color. It doesn't look like a big block of color.
Yeah.
I haven't decided if I want to do the full truck that color or if I just want to do the cab.
Okay. Yeah.
Being one big color could be a bit strange, so I'm thinking maybe the Byron blue metallic for the cab, maybe a white or a cream for the
back,
the habitation pod, just to break it up.
Yeah, that will make it quite unique.
I think my mind will change a lot in the meantime, but
you've got
that's sort of what I'd be looking at.
Yeah.
I still want to keep a lot of the. I want to keep all of the military gadgets on it. So I was intending to do a bit of a video on it. It's something that you get with a truck like this that you don't with anything else. And there's some really strange, cool things.
Oh, cool.
So the first one is what I just repaired. It's got a gun turret.
That's it.
So I've just repaired that. But obviously that's an ideal sunroof, so you can lift the hatch off. You can but it's also a quick access point to the roof, and you can sit on it, and the view's great because it's so tall off the ground there, you can really see. So
that's really cool.
That was a cool feature. But even you get into the electrics of the truck, so it's got infrared, where if you put certain shades over the light, you put night vision goggles on and you can drive with everything off. It's got a blackout setup, a convoy setup, all on the binnacle, so you can have all of the dash lights off, all of the basically nothing on, so that you can't be seen.
Like a silent ninja.
So for stealth camping and everything, running, you can. Oh, if you don't want to be seen, you just knock everything off. You want to be in the cab. And it's just loads of cool little things like that. And I want to repurpose them and make real use of them. I do want to make the interior really high spec in the cab itself.
Okay.
So it's obviously very, very basic there now. It's there's virtually no electrics on the engine has no electrics. It's
okay.
It's so basic that you've got to pull a cable to choke the engine out. It's a fuel.
Wow. Yeah.
The only electrics are basically the headlights. That's it.
Okay, so you want to sort of wire it up so it's like a really nice spec, because that was something that the same guy asked, was what was your plan with your living space, and they were wondering if you were doing sort of a container on the existing frame or if you're stripping it. I know that you haven't got anything on the back yet, so what is the material that you're thinking of using for that back section? I think you said earlier, what was it?
So you'll have the skeleton will be made out of aluminium. So it'll be an aluminium external frame. And then in between that, you will have composite panels, which is basically a layer of fiberglass, sometimes a layer of wood, your insulation, and then wood and fiberglass again. So it's just a full
like a double
sandwich
wall.
panel.
Yeah.
So if you can do it two ways, you could do a steel frame or even an aluminium frame. You could put a steel rivet a sheet of aluminium to the outside of that to get a shell, and then you could put your insulation in there and then clad it with wood. And a lot of people do that because it generally tends to be the more cost-effective way.
Yeah.
But there's more leak paths. It's heavier, things like that. Where if you get the full composite board, it's all in one. You're just bonding on the corners of the frame.
Yeah.
Unbroken, clean side, and I think it's not only does it look more aesthetically pleasing, it's more functional as well.
Yeah.
So you can buy the board. It's quite expensive, but I think I'm going to have a go at making the sandwich panel myself.
Oh, cool.
So again, with my background in cars, I do a lot of composite panels. I've made car panels, and there's nothing on this scale ever.
Yeah, this is a
but
whole.
In my mind, I've got the space to be able to do a full side panel. I can lay the fiberglass myself. I can then do the bonding of the wood, the bonding of the insulation layer, and the bonding of the wood again, and make a full size panel myself. That is one option. That is what I'm juggling it. Like I say, I think closer to the time it'll be, am I going to spend a lot of money on materials to make it myself? Or am I just going to pick up the phone and call a company in France, because that's where it comes from?
Okay.
And say, here's the CAD files, cut this out, and I'll come with a trailer and pick it up.
Pick it up.
Either way, we'll see how it goes. I think them are the two options that I'm definitely going with. In terms of retaining it on the body, though, it is something that I've been playing with. So I can have it fixed with the subframe.
Okay.
Bolted on. But I do like the idea of using, I don't know the correct name, but if you know, when you have a look at actual containers, you've got the locking points on the corners.
Yeah.
That's how it locks onto them. I am toying with putting that into my box design so that I can remove the box if I need to at some point.
Okay, I think I know what you mean, because my Stitcher show home, it was an XBT workshop, and inside they've got fixings that are like gigantic bolts, and it's almost like, at first we thought it was how they got the sort of box frame onto it, but then we realized it was fixings for their workshop stuff on the inside. But there are different ways of fixing that back on there, isn't there? So you're sort of leaning towards that second option.
Yeah, I like the idea of being able to remove the back. Don't know why. I just think it's even for servicing, things like that. If I ever need to get under the box for whatever reason, I don't think I ever will. But or even if I just to take the box off and use the truck for something else, it's a big back on it. So who knows? It's something that's in my mind. I haven't fully locked it down. I think is when I have to commit, that's when I'll
that's when you'll make that final decision. Yeah, that's really cool.
I've got both designs sort of roughly sketched out, so I know which way I'm going. But
that's cool. And you never know, some of it might sort of merge together. You might take something from one of the designs and you might sort of merge them as well, depending on where you're at when it comes to it.
Yeah,
that's definitely. Really cool. So another question that I love to ask my podcast guests is a sustainability question, which is, so sustainability wise, what do you wish you or we had more of? So I always go ahead and say to people, like, an example might be that we need more bamboo toothbrushes. Whoever invented that is great. But some people have said stuff to do with vehicles. So maybe with your background, there might be something that you wish that you had more of, but it could be absolutely anything. So yeah, I'd love to know what you think that you or we should have more of.
So I think it's the knowledge of things about what sustainability is. So it's actually a big part of my job. I'm an engineer, but what I actually do in my course, I design suspension for vehicles.
Oh, cool.
So I use a lot of heavy materials and a lot of industrial processes to do that. So, and for all if people would say I'm part of the problem, I'm designing cars and everything, the fact is I'm probably doing more to help the environment than people realize.
Yeah.
Because it's actually my process. I make the decision to take out grams of plastic or grams of steel in different applications, not just for cost, but also for CO2 benefits on the vehicle. So in mass, I make a very big difference. I can't get rid of cars. No one can get rid of cars in one sweep because we need them to some degree. But what we can do is improve how sustainable we make vehicles.
Yeah.
So the business has a real big drive of doing sustainability, every business.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that I think would like to get out there is more about how things are made, not necessarily the materials, but it's how things are made, which is the big sustainable thing. So a big one is, again, because make things lighter, they're going to be less fuel, they're going to be more efficient, more sustainable. Well, actually, it's actually worse to make something out of aluminium than steel in a lot of cases.
Okay.
Energy required to do something out of aluminium because it's physically use lots of electricity to draw aluminium out of its state to actually be able to form it. It's so much worse for the environment than actual end use of the aluminium.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a steel this you tend to find that steel is actually better in most cases, even though it's heavier.
You'd think, it's so heavy. Yeah.
So it's actually not just the product you're using, but how the product is made is what you should really be, in my mind, is thinking of. Because generally it's easy to make something look very sustainable, very eco-friendly and so, but the actual background behind it is really bad. So be more conscious of that, understand what you're actually purchasing is actually really sustainable.
Yeah, I love that. It's like you say at the start, it's about having that knowledge and understanding. I really like that. That's a really, really good answer. Oh, Chris, thank you so much for joining me today on the Tiny Sessions podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you. To find out more about what Chris is up to on this really, really cool space, I think it's great. And the fact that you've got all these skills that you could add to it is really interesting, and so many people can learn from it as well. So to find out more, head to your Instagram, which is Build It Overland, and you've got a YouTube page as well, haven't you?
Yeah, it's the same, Build It Overland on YouTube.
Perfect. And that's where all your videos are. That is amazing. Well, a big thank you, Chris, for joining me today.
No problem. It's been my pleasure. It's great talking to you.
Thank you.